Hey guys, so today's short thought for the day video is based on the character of David in the Bible and the story about what happens to David. So I'm going to share like a vision that God had given me. This was back I think it was like the 4th of June, and I was sunbathing outside, and then God just gave me this vision, and he was speaking to me, but I also do feel this message is for other people. So I just want to really encourage you with this message. If you're watching this, I don't believe it's a coincidence, and I just pray you're encouraged by this example about David. So yeah, God showed me that, so just to bring some context, David was actually appointed to be king after Saul of the time in that land. So at that time, Saul was the king, but Saul's servant Samuel was on a mission basically to find the next king because Saul's time was up. So Samuel goes out and search for the right person, the one that God has ordained and appointed. Now he goes throughout the land looking for that person. It's a bit like a Cinderella story, guys. I'll come back to that thought in a minute. So he arrives at David's bloodline, David's family. Now, David at this point is a young boy, so probably like a young teenager at this point, and David's a shepherd boy, right? So David's in the field looking after the sheep. That's his responsibility. And on that day when Samuel was looking for the next king, David was out in the field looking after the sheep. At that point, Samuel arrives at David's family's place. And now David has a long line of brothers, and Samuel goes to each one, and he goes down the line to see if any of them are who God has chosen. Starting off with the oldest brother, it was quite traditional back then, that the firstborn would naturally be chosen or picked amongst or above the others. Anyway, so David's dad is like showing off all his brothers, and then Samuel's basically like, no, this ain't it, and they on the outside they all look great, but that he just knew that that's not who God was saying should be the next king. Now Samuel goes to the dad and says, is there any other brothers, is there anyone left? And they kind of like dismiss and go, oh, only our youngest, who's just a shepherd boy out in the field sort of thing. And so because of that, they didn't really think to bring David to this appointment, really. And that might actually look like a setback, guys, for David. You might think that's a bit unfair. Why was he not even invited to, that's a bit unfair sort of thing. But actually, what looks like a setback is actually a set up for what God was about to do in his life. You see, Samuel said, okay, I need to see the youngest boy. In the end, he knew David, the shepherd boy, was the one the Lord had chosen and ordered to get David immediately. Okay, so I'm just going to share that much from that story. Now, what God was highlighting to me was that there's some of you out there that are like David, in the sense that you're out in your field and you're doing the Lord's work, and actually, relating to the other video, it might look really insignificant to the world. It might look messy dealing with sheep. It might look very very normal. Someone like David wouldn't have been the obvious choice to be the next king due to his age, due to his family history, due to the fact that he was just a shepherd boy, and on the outside the world might have judged him, hence why they didn't even think to invite him, right? But God was saying to me that it wasn't about all those skills or lack of skills that he had, but it was about David's heart, that you can be qualified by God purely based on what he sees in your heart. It's that classic saying, all are called but few are chosen. And now God loves everybody. He's no respecter of person, but he knows our hearts, and he knows the ones that are going to have a willing heart to do the work he has called them to do. And David found favor with God and favor with Samuel. And the main theme that I want to highlight that God was showing me was that, God said to me, look, David was chosen. He didn't strive to be seen, right? Relating to the last video I did. And clear as day, God was saying to me, like, those of you will know, because this will happen in your life at the appointed time. In your land at the moment, whatever God has called you to do, it's in that time you working hard for the work of the Lord. It will be during that time doing your work, working on your gifts, your craft, whatever it is that you're passionate about, what God's been given to you. You will be so focused on doing the Lord's work that you won't need to worry about how you're going to get to the next step, how you're going to get from A to B. You won't need to worry about how you're going to progress in your calling in life, because little do you know that at that time someone will spot you, and the spotlight will be on you, and God will send someone to appoint you, to choose you, to notice you. And yeah, God was just saying, it's when you're doing the Lord's work, like, you don't have to strive. And he just kept highlighting the fact that you are chosen, like, you are chosen. And it's quite ironic that he would choose a character like David, not someone that seems qualified. David may not have been qualified on paper, but God qualifies the unqualified, classic saying. And it's so true, guys. God will give you and equip you for everything you need to do for the work he has called you to do. It's just about trusting him. Just see if there's anything else. Okay, so I wrote some notes down. It doesn't matter if you're not invited to that thing. It doesn't matter. You may think you've got to put yourself in the right place at the right time, but when it's God's will, God was showing me the promise will find you. The promise will find you. Not the other way around. Because if you think about it, if you're striving, doing your own strength, is that good? Because really, God's ways are so much higher than ours and different to ours. Like, the whole point, it's not just to benefit and bless you, it's to bless and benefit others, but really, guys, it is for his glory. Therefore, God's power will be shown in how you take that position that you're called for. And so a lot of the time he'll use the unexpected, and he will make the situation look impossible to show that with God all things are possible, so that his power can come through. God is a God of miracles, and the whole point is that he can be glorified so the world can see who he is through the testimony of your life and what he's doing in it. It came unexpectedly. David didn't see that coming. He was just so focused on that one responsibility he had, which looked insignificant. Yet think about it, guys. Some context, being a shepherd actually was a very important role, and he was responsible for the whole herd. And in the story about David, he even wrestled a lion and a bear, I believe, to protect the sheep. So he was already doing stuff that not many people, I don't think anyone really knew that, and so what I feel like God's saying right now for some of you listening to this is the things that are done in secret, the hidden things that you've done for the Lord that no one else has seen, like the last video, that is your training ground, that's your preparation. and that is not insignificant, because that was the tool and what you needed to do before the appointed time. So before David got into the spotlight as king, he needed to work his ground, work his field, work on his graft. You know, he had to overcome those little obstacles and steps and grow in his skills, you know. And that it wasn't about the audience that was witnessing everything he was doing in his time of training, but it was about his heart, and it was about, you know, an appointed time. Everything has a season, everything has an appointed time. So just to encourage you guys, before this goes on to a long tangent, is continue doing the work that God's called you to do, because you are not labouring in vain. Anything you do for God is not done in vain. He sees your heart, you know. And don't neglect the things that seem small. Don't neglect any of those things. And just remember, the promise will find you. You don't need to strive. You just need to keep focusing on the Lord, fix your attention to Him, and be obedient to every step of the way, every instruction He gives you. And then unexpectedly, your doors, the breakthroughs, everything will just happen. And really, all you were doing was just doing these things for the Lord, that you weren't striving for it, really. So yeah, that's the encouragement for today. That's my thought for today. You're chosen. God has a position for you. He has a calling on your life. Keep working your field, and at the right time, those doors are going to open for you. Okay, take care, guys, and bye.